Hi there, I'm Cosma, and with my colleague Frances and our student partners Oscar and Aidan, and Frances's project student Radoslav, we are going to tell you about the most recent changes that we have made to the interactive teaching units which sit in the second year of our chemistry program. And we will also share some of our reflections of working together as students and staff. First, I'll give you a quick overview of what these 3-hour sessions used to be. An academic would spend an afternoon with 12 students and go through some materials on one of these topics. In the session, the students then worked in groups of 3 to 4 and practiced teamwork, and then they'd also present to each other, practicing presentation skills. The dual aim of the ITU then and now is the same: applying chemistry to real-world problems while developing transferable skills. For decades, the ITUs have run in this format, and before the pandemic, we noticed that the materials were getting a bit dated and that the students didn't like the ITUs, nor did they value group work. During the pandemic, the ITUs took place online. We used OneNote as a collaboration tool, and we developed some new content. When restrictions on meetings were lifted, the same tools didn't work in a normal computer cluster, and there was actually less collaboration than online. So this year, we have a new skills workshop, we've got new content, and I'll hand over to Oscar to tell you about the new structure.
So we wanted to use the TEAL rooms to make the ITUs more interactive, promote collaboration and presentation skills. It started with an introductory task for all the students, then each table of about 6 people were given a different topic and paper to read, then further splitting up into pairs to answer their own mini set of questions. The pairs then come together again to create a presentation about their topic and what they've learned, based on a pre-prepared skeleton structure. Each person will have a different role in this, using the variety of skill sets in the group, and a nominated spokesperson or people will then present it to the other groups. Each group then writes a question for every other group on a sticky note, and they answer it together. Finally, everyone is brought back together to have a talk by a current PhD student to give relatable context to the topics they've just been learning about. The purpose of all this was to get students talking to different people, to collaborate, and by breaking each section up, making the task more manageable.
So I'm now going to talk about the TEAL rooms specifically and why exactly we decided to use them. So first off, it's important to explain what TEAL actually stands for. And TEAL stands for Technology Enhanced Active Learning. And these rooms that we used were particularly good for this type of session as implied by the technology enhanced aspect. Each table is fitted with microphones for presentation and has multiple screens on each table that can be screen shared across the entire room. This technology facilitated and streamlined the presentation aspect of our ITU and made it much easier for students to present the work to the room. So at the end of the session, we provided students with a questionnaire to get feedback on how they found the ITU as a whole. Some of the feedback we've included below in this graph and these quotes from the students, but the general consensus is that students found the ITU session to be incredibly useful in developing their communication and teamwork skills, and specifically they said that using the TEAL rooms improved their experience of doing so. So this feedback that we received clearly demonstrates the effectiveness of this type of session for improving the students' presentation and communication skills. And this type of session is not just exclusive to chemistry either. Sessions of this format could be reworked for any subject area where it feels necessary to develop these specific skills.
So one of the things we changed in the workshop this year was instead of having a one-day workshop, we had 2 days. In the extra day, we ran a skills workshop concentrating on scientific writing and speaking. So in the first part, we looked at how to literature search, how to reference correctly, and we looked at good essay writing skills. We gave the students an example of the rubric we'll be using to mark their essay assignment and asked them to mark some essays as groups. And one of those essays had been generated in AI, so that led into a conversation about how we could use AI in scientific writing, what would be helpful and what would be harmful. And at the end of the workshop, we asked the students how confident they had been before it and afterwards. And we found that some of the students were chemistry students majoring in chemistry, but another cohort were taking chemistry only for this year and will major in another degree, probably a biological science. And we found that the non-chemists were much more confident in most of the skills compared to the chemists. So at the start, the chemists were inferior in terms of literature searching, scientific writing and referencing. but by the end of the workshop they had improved and there was no statistical difference between the competence of the chemists and the non-chemists. When it comes to public speaking, we found that the chemists and the non-chemists were both much less competent at this skill compared to the other skills. And even though there was some improvement after the workshop, it was still a little bit on the low side and there was no difference between both cohorts. So I'm now going to pass to my final year project student Rado to tell you about the second part of the workshop on public speaking.
Thank you, Francis. So, as part of my final year master's project, I designed an hour-long presentation on public speaking skills, which included 4 main topics. Firstly, the value of public speaking to STEM graduates. Secondly, on how to write content and structure it. Thirdly, on developing a rhetoric. And finally, on confidence and just managing anxiety. The skills under discussion were in part demonstrated, and exercises were given to ensure that the students got a chance to actually practice them as opposed to just sitting and watching. And finally, students fed back that they specifically enjoyed being taught by a fellow student. They felt related to and generally confident in my ability to present these skills.
So we were funded through the University of Glasgow Staff Student Partnership Scheme, and so we just wanted to tell you a bit about what it was like working together as a team of staff and students.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed mainly the responsibility of being in the project and working on this project. And I enjoyed, especially when we would have group meetings, I would really like, because we would sort of bounce ideas off of each other, and it felt like the ideas that we had were being like implemented. And it wasn't just like we were there, our ideas actually had value, and I really enjoyed that. And I also enjoyed just the independence of, like we had to actually go and do the things that we had to do. You know, we couldn't just rely on the staff to do it. We had to have active contributions. Yeah.
I really like that we got to choose the topic to focus on and that we were really interested in. We hoped other people would be interested in as well. And just like researching that and learning more about it and then applying it to like a real world situation, I really liked.
Yeah, it was nice. And I also enjoyed not just the creating the sessions, I also enjoyed the actual in practice running the sessions, because we got to see our work being actually implemented, and we got to see the students' response to it. And it was nice to engage with the students and see how they were finding it and get their feedback, because even though we are students, we don't have a full grasp of what everyone enjoys in a teaching session. So we only had our own biases of what is a good session. So it was interesting to get the feedback from the students and find out, oh, well, even if we like this, overall, some people don't like this, some people like this instead. So it was really interesting to get that feedback and just see the whole picture of what actually makes a teaching session good. And it was interesting to find that out.
And I also thought that we did get to, because we did it the year before, we got to improve on what we felt needed to be improved, and we kept what we liked and like made it to fit what we thought would be best, which I quite liked.
Yeah, it was nice to change something that we had a lot of issues with before, and make it into something that we enjoyed. Yeah, but it was a really good experience. Oh, and also we have just on this slide we have what the staff thought of this.
So, summing up, thanks to the collaboration with our 2 student partners and 1 final year student, we have a new format for our interactive teaching units, which is great for introducing students to scientific literature. It makes use of the TEAL rooms, and it sits alongside a new workshop on scientific writing skills and public speaking skills. Overall, we have found this to be beneficial to our students, and as a partnership, we have also learned quite a bit from and with each other. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to your questions.